Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
Beautiful Wednesday morning, hump
January
day.
5th.
Yeah, 5 days into January
That's
already.
right.
You know, people oftentimes want to rush through January, considered MAGA season for a lot of people. I know some people say January has 100 days.
Yeah,
And so
that's
to
one we
see
usually hear.
we're at January 5th already, that's a good thing. We're quickly going through the month, 5 days already, and so, you know.
5 days into your New Year's resolution, maybe, day
How's
5 of
that
getting up and going to work out
Yeah.
or wake up early
Yeah.
or, did you set any resolutions for yourself? I haven't asked
You know, I don't necessarily set resolutions, that's the truth.
Or you don't want to say it on TV?
No, that's not it.
We can be your accountability partners.
And that's the thing, you speak out your resolutions at the time, but I don't.
Yeah.
That's to be honest. I believe, I just work. I just work hard at what I believe in. I work hard at what I'm passionate about. I don't necessarily expect things to happen, but things just tend to fall in place when I work hard and do what I'm passionate about. So that's my goal, to continue working hard. Yeah.
Tell us. We won't ask anymore because
Yeah.
you're trying to get out of that one real
So
quickly.
moving on.
To other things, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one of your goals this year is to avoid COVID because,
Yeah.
man,
Oh my gosh.
it's just every day you're just hearing people getting testing positive. I think I was watching the news a bit, especially with what's happening in the United States. They're actually shifting to go to school online, and there's in some states, I should say. And I keep on thinking about our own plans here, how we're coping. Yesterday, after our conversation, you went to check out a new testing site.
Yes, so I called the ministry. I asked them what's up with the testing and the reports we've been receiving for some sort of backlog, some sort of delays in the line. And I was informed that, in fact, this is the case, and that they're trying to solve this, at least in the Belize district, where they're getting, it's one of the most populated areas, and so they decided they would open a new testing site.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw at the Swift Hall, which was, interestingly, last year, a vaccination site.
Yeah, and closed, I think, maybe November, December, December.
Closed in December. It was probably for the holiday, right before the holidays it closed. And so to see it re-emerge as a Ministry of Health site, but this time not a vaccination site, but a testing site, speaks to the seriousness of the Omicron variant in terms of its transmissibility. When we got there, it was about 10:30. They had just opened, and of the 10 persons that they tested, 5 tested positive. It got to the point, well, when I spoke to one of the doctors there, one of the leading doctors there, manning that site, she informed us that it's alarming. It's alarming, but she's at a point now, having worked for 2 years, where she could actually, she says to us, she could look at somebody and say, you know what, I think you have COVID. We don't even need to test you. Yeah, she says it's gotten to that point, but kudos. I do want to take some time this morning to say kudos to our doctors, to our healthcare workers that are on the ground and have been on the ground for the past 2 years, really putting out a spectacular effort, ensuring that at least this first part, which is one of the most critical stages in it all, getting tested and ensuring that our population is tested so that we could detect these variants, that we could detect the virus, and as a result, kind of guide our decision making, our policy making process, you know. So yes, the Swift Hall, it's a new testing site in Belize District.
Yeah, the Ministry of Health last week opened some free testing sites in other districts,
Yeah.
and now this is an additional testing site
Yeah.
available in Belize City. You know, yesterday we were talking about how we were seeing troves of persons going out to get tested and long lines. And so clearly, you know, your experience was one that was happening in other places
Right.
as well. So I'm happy to see that they're increasing accessibility for testing because that is key. I think it's a great sign that people are going out to get tested because I've heard stories in the past where people say, well, I'm not going to test it because I don't want to know or I don't want them to tell me I'm positive. But the fact that people are going out to get tested is such a good sign because if they know their status, then they'll be able to hopefully follow through with the protocols and isolate and stop the spread. Now the 5 out of 10, which is technically, if you know, a 50% positivity rate, that is really concerning. And I remember when you told me you were testing on Friday, I was like, how many people would you think? You said about 40%
I said
were
about
testing.
40%.
Yeah, so your numbers were right.
It was. I mean, it's kind of evident when you go in and you look and you see what's happening. So what they're doing, if you visit the testing site at the Central Health Region, or if you visit the testing site at Civic Center, if the lines are long, if there's a long wait in terms of getting results, what they'll do, they'll send you over to Swift Hall. What I found interesting yesterday, one tad bit that when I was speaking to Dr. Musa, she made mention of the fact that some persons are visiting the sites too early to get tested.
Yes.
I didn't really take that into consideration before until yesterday. She recommended that you wait 3 days.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, you think you were exposed because a coworker was exposed, and you're working closely with that person, you feel exposed. What tends to happen sometimes, according to Dr. Musa, is that immediately you want to go and get tested. And what ends up happening is sometimes the result is not accurate because the test is not able to detect the virus at that point in time. And so she recommends you isolate for 3 days. Now, this is nothing, I guess it's not like a guideline that is written down per se, as stipulated by the Ministry of Health here in Belize.
I think they've recommended it.
Right,
With Delta before, it was, I think, 5 days, 3 to 5 days. Now they're saying as little as 3, you can be able to detect Omicron, but you must wait. And I've heard stories, we know stories of persons who've tested immediately after exposure, they're negative, and then a few days later, they test, and then they're positive. So I understand that after an exposure, the first thing you want to do is
go and get
let
tested.
me check. But I think that's a really key piece of information that they've put out there. So people have to be patient and wait the 3 days just so. I mean, Paul, if you think about it, you know, if the virus is introduced into my body at this moment, it's gonna duplicate. And so, you know, the tests are going to detect those cells, but right now I don't have that many. It's duplicating. I'm also shedding it. This is if I came into contact. I tested yesterday, I'm negative. So, but that would be the case. So I'd be spreading it while it's duplicating in my body, and then after 3 days, it would be detectable.
Right.
So it's not that you don't have it or you got it within those 3 days. It's just that it has to reach that point where the test will be able to pick it up. So that 3 days is important. Also, the travel warning, if you come back, I think it goes to the same thing, because maybe your exposure was, you know, the day of travel or the day before travel, and you have to wait to see if you do have it or not.
That goes back to some of the regulations we sought to implement, and I believe we implemented in 2020 where once you came into the country, whether it's a visitor
Yeah.
or a returning Belizean, you were supposed to isolate. I know we don't necessarily have that a regulation in place anymore, but I'm hearing Dr. Musa hinting
Yeah.
at kind of getting back to that. Of course, the responsibility is your own.
Yeah.
If you come back, take 3 days and isolate yourself, because again, like you rightfully explained, you may not be able to detect the virus as soon as you return back into country. But all that in conversation, there's also the talks about reopening of schools.
Yeah.
January 10th. I know that's a huge conversation for Belizeans across the nation, especially those parents with children that are sending them back to school. Of the 600 schools, we learned yesterday, of the 600 schools across the nation, approximately 539 have applied to reopen for hybrid learning. That's the majority of the schools. Of that number, I believe 520 have been green lighted for reopening. So with those numbers, you can expect that a school in your area may just reopen on January 10th.
And CEO in the Ministry of Education yesterday confirmed that they are moving ahead with the reopening on January 10th. Of course, they are relying heavily on the advice of the Ministry of Health. We'll see if things change within the next few days. But I've been trying to put this into perspective because I hear what parents are saying, their concerns, and I hear the other side where people are saying, I really just want my child back in the classroom. And not because you want to be rid of them, but because as a parent, you know that they're struggling without socializing with or interacting with anyone other than a device. But I think that one of the things that's key, and a long time ago, it feels like a long time ago, when they were starting the resumption of classes, we did an interview with Jenny Lovell, who is a mental health professional, who talked about preparing children. One of the things she said is that the safety of your child in school will start at home. So you have to start to impart, you have to start to teach them from now about wearing their masks and keeping their masks on and washing their hands and sanitizing. And, for the time being, when it comes to food and drink, sharing is not caring. And teach them these lessons now so that when they go to the classroom, they're already prepared to implement. Because we do it as adults, we come to work, we distance, we mask, and we have been able to manage. I mean, you have outbreaks here and there, so it is possible. And I know with the people always say, well, the little ones won't wear it. Well, I find the littler ones are even better at complying than the older children. My niece, she wears her mask like, that's part of her outfit. And she's only 4, so I think it is possible. And as I said, we're going to wait and see what happens, because this is really a tough one that we're facing once again in the country. I think collectively everybody knows children need to be in a classroom. Parents are not teachers, no matter how hard they try, and it's going to take a toll almost 2 years later.
And I think what, to put things into context, you have to understand that the Ministry of Education, didn't necessarily begin planning for reopening around Omicron. Omicron came behind the planning, so there was already plans to reopen. I think what concerns parents, and if I was a parent, perhaps what I would be most concerned about is the transmissibility and the increased transmissibility of Omicron. Will my child catch it when he or she goes to school? Because of how fast this virus spreads, I'm concerned that if it's not at school, it may be somewhere else, maybe walking on the sidewalk. I understand the fears. I understand the concerns with Omicron, and not to tie that into, just to say that yesterday also a new variant was identified. We don't know much about it.
put that one in the back of my head.
You put that one in the back of your head already.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, no,
To be clear, though, it was detected. I'm still following World Health Organization to see what they're going to say about it, because we rely on I know Belize and the Ministry of Health, we rely on the World Health Organization. But the more, time and time again, we've heard all the scientists, all the health officials say, when you have large spreads, the virus mutates. And with time, it's always mutating. It's just that some of these ones pop up that become very concerning. And this one has, I believe, 48 mutations. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just...
Oh, I do believe we have a conversation about
I was going to say, we're going to be talking about COVID and Omicron. We have a representative of the task force that's going to be joining us. Of course, they're the ones who advise the government on decision making. We also have Dr. Bear, who's going to be joining us. She's always pulling these early mornings for us. We're so appreciative. But we do have more coming up. And on a positive note, we're still seeing a low number of hospitalizations. We do hope that continues that way.
And that's as well.
Yeah.
So that's a good news.
All right, but we got to get moving into our show for today. And let's get some motivation to get us started. And that means it's time for Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Our bellies can be wonderful monitors of our emotional health, and the truth can always be found there. So often, emotions that we long to express get stored in our bodies instead. The space where this most often happens is in our bellies. Rather than telling people, or even ourselves, the way we truly feel, we may stuff our true feelings deep inside of us, where they take up space until we are ready to let them go. Suffering or feelings in our bellies may feel like the safe response, since we then don't really have to deal with our emotions yet. Doing so can actually be detrimental to our emotional well-being and physical health. Releasing your emotions from your belly doesn't have to be painful and hard. Rather, it can be organic and effortless. It's important not to judge whatever comes up for you. We tend to stuff our feelings in our bellies when we're ashamed of them or not ready to express them. There is nothing wrong with having feelings, whatever they may be. You can't help your feelings. If anything, you can help yourself by acknowledging the truth of your emotions so you can set yourself free.
This is a new one for me.
Yeah.
It's a new perspective. I never thought about, I don't know if we're speaking literally or metaphorically.
It's however you interpret it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I have been seeing my belly grow a bit. I don't know if it's just being filled with emotions. Maybe that's the excuse there, but
I like that, Paul.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of
use that
emotions
one.
filling my stomach.
Just stuffing them down. But time and time again, I think, and doctors will tell you that very often emotions can affect your physical health.
Right.
If you don't allow yourself to process them, feel them, express them, you can end up physically sick.
Yes.
From that, and so I think that's for me what I use. It's physically the gut too, because I mean I don't know, when we have really difficult situations that we're dealing with, we talk about knots in our stomachs. When you talk about your anxious moments, it's like I have knots in my stomach. We say I have bad belly sometimes, and that's because we're feeling it from deep within. So I think the eye opener kind of gives us that license to say that
release.
We need to let it out.
Yeah, let it go.
We're scared of emotions. We're scared of some emotions, not all.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you're gonna say. You're gonna say just the emotional bandwidth is increasing in your stomach.
That's exactly what's happening. I'm learning.
I'll leave you there with that. All right, we got to get moving into our weather. It has been beautiful.
Yeah.
Love this cool weather. Hoping it's going to stay around. Our forecaster is supposed to give us a bit more of those details. So let's see. It does look like it's going to rain just a bit, though. All right, so let's go ahead and check out our weather for this morning. And our general situation is for improving conditions to set in today. The 24-hour forecast, cloudy at times and today and partly cloudy tonight with showers being isolated. The winds are moving from the north to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and the sea state is light chop to choppy. Along the coast, our highs for today are going to be
Highs for today along the coast is going to be 80 today and 76 later on in the evening. Inland, our highs are going to be 84 degrees and 70 in the evening. And in the hills, we're going to have highs up to 72 degrees and lows up to 65 degrees in the hills.
all right. And our outlook, mainly fair with only isolated showers for Thursday. Then a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing mainly over some coastal and southern areas on Thursday night. We want to thank our forecaster, Cristel Rosales, for that update.
Of course, that's telling us that the temperature is going to increase a tad bit. That sweet spot for Belizeans is somewhere between 75 and 79. You see, when it starts hitting 80, then we kind of realize, all right,
I think even 70 is really cool for us because we have the sea breeze and that can make it feel
it's true.
very chilly.
That's true.
All right, so that's what they say, improving conditions. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it needed to improve, but improving isn't less rain. That's
We'll
what they
take
say.
it.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get moving into our show. And as we mentioned earlier, our first conversation is going to be about the increase in COVID-19 cases. We know that there is a general acknowledgement that we are seeing a wave due to Omicron cases. So we're going to hear from Dr. Natalia Baer from the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Dr. Marcela Coy, who's a member of the COVID-19 task force, about what they think is going on, what the plans are, and how they're monitoring.
And in our second conversation, we'll be talking finances, specifically
MAGA season.
MAGA season, and bouncing back from the financial constraints caused by COVID-19. And so we have in with us a Belizean lecturer in South Florida, Dr. Albert Williams.
All right. And to close off, we talked about getting fitness goals on. We have been looking at setting goals. One of the things that's definitely encouraged is picking up new hobbies. And what better hobby than learning to play a new instrument? So we're going to be finding out, we're going to get a crash course on how to play Creole drums, not just any drums, right? So in honor of Ms. Myrna, she's going to be real happy about that. We're going to learn how to play the Creole drums in the final part of the show. So we're going to go ahead and take a break.
But before that, Marlene, we have a birthday greet. I'm going to leave the singing to you. We have a birthday greeting.
Wrap it.
We want to say happy birthday to Stuart Fairweather. Mr. Fairweather, a happy birthday from all of us here at Channel 5 and Open Your Eyes.
All right. We'll take that break now. When we come back, we'll be talking about the situation of COVID-19 in Belize. So please stay tuned.
We have been a partner with SMART for over 10 plus years. We have a full SMART plan we use as our major driver for our business. We have a service that rolls over in that if you call one and it is busy, it rolls over to the next line. So once you call us, you can get us at any time. Before we got this SMART service, we were paying upwards of nearly $2,000 in phone bills. Since we've had our SMART service, we pay an average about $600. So we've had tremendous saving, more than 50%. For the businesses, if you want to save money, switch to SMART because it is far more cost effective and the service is excellent.
SMART continues to be innovative in bringing new technology and meaningful savings during these challenging times to businesses across Belize. Sign up for our VoIP technology or broadband packages and save more.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
Stay safe and submit your sickness benefit claim form electronically. Follow these 4 steps. Step 1. Obtain your medical certificate. At consultation, the doctor certifies your days of illness and provides you with a medical certificate. Step 2. Fill out your sickness benefit form. Complete all the fields in parts 1 to 4 on the front page of the sickness benefit form. Step 3. Request your salaries record form. Contact your employer for your salaries record form. Step 4. Submit your sickness benefit claim form. Scan or take a clear picture of the sickness benefit form, salaries record, and proof of bank account. Email the documents to claims@socialsecurity.org.bz within 14 days. You will receive an email reply confirming receipt of your claim. After the submission of all documents, your claim is processed for payment to your account. For any COVID-related illnesses, contact the Ministry of Health for further guidance. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
At Cellular World, we are more than just phones. Over the past 16 years, we have grown tremendously with 5 locations across the country. As the market demand grows, Cellular World guarantees to continuously offer our customers new and improved services.
We are your trusted source for all of your electronic needs. We carry a full line of consumer electronic products ranging from mobile devices, tablets, and even business solution products, all from brands you know and trust.
Your shopping experience is important to us. We have invested in our staff to ensure that our customers receive the best service when they shop with us in-store and online.
We know your devices are essential. Our skilled and experienced technicians work tirelessly to get your repairs done quickly so that you can have your devices working like new in no time.
We stand by our products. Shop with us knowing that your purchases are backed up by unsurpassed customer support and warranties you can rely on.
Every team has a winning lineup, and ours works diligently to ensure that we are leading the industry in Belize by providing you access to the latest innovation with customer support that you can depend on. We are Cellular World.
Good morning and welcome back. As we told you before the break, we have a conversation on COVID and COVID cases. 1 second here. And so we have in studio with us Dr. Marcelo Coy, who is a member of the COVID-19 task force. And we also have with us joining us via Zoom, Dr. Natalia Beer, who is technical advisor, maternal and child health at the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Good morning, Dr. Coy. Good morning, Dr. Beer.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you both for being here. Dr. Coy, let me just first start by congratulating you on your recognition, the New Year recognition. Just if we could get into that a bit. How did you feel? Were you surprised when you learned that you were being recognized in this manner?
Yes, I was. I was surprised. I think I was thinking about it, and I think as you get older,
Yeah.
I think it's due to the long years of service that I have given to Belize, both in the public and the private sector.
So is this now your time to retire?
Not yet,
And
I
rest?
think I have a few more years.
Yeah,
for sure.
Dr. Bear has asked me to do more work, and I said, no, I'm in the pre-retirement, but no, I'm still active.
Yeah.
That's great. And Dr. Beer, we understand that you also received some recognition for your work. Tell us a bit about how you feel about being recognized and appreciated in the manner you were.
Yes, well, it was an unexpected surprise.
Yeah.
And I think more than looking at it from a personal point of view, I really appreciate the recognition of the BBN for the healthcare workers, no? Just happened to be that, well, my name is there, but I really was pleased to accept it as a representation from as a recognition for the healthcare workers in Belize.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think one of the things I do want to say is, of course, for both of you, being so accessible, especially to the media, has been helpful because we have questions and the public have questions.
Yes.
As we go through the ups and downs of this pandemic. So definitely thank you from us here.
And it's the fact that you guys have been accessible for 2 years. I mean, when you put things into perspective in terms of how long we've been fighting this virus, COVID-19, you sit back and you think, all right, we've seen these faces over and over, and it feels like it's been such a short time. For some reason, because of how, I guess, busy we've been, and they say when you're having a good time, time flies by so fast. But I guess also when you're having a challenging time, time also flies by really fast. It's been 2 years, and we must commend your work. We must commend your efforts for the kind of dedication you've shown, both of you, over the last 2 years. And allow me to ask that, I throw it to each one of you, either one of you, in terms of, we're now going into a third year. Is this what you anticipated at the onset?
No, I didn't. No. But if you look at it historically, in the 1918 pandemic, it had a similar pattern of 4 waves. It went over a 3-year period. So if you go from a historical point of view, we should have expected it. But we were being optimistic that, we wouldn't go that way. But, but if you look at it, yes, it's reality.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the advancement of science and the speed as to which we were able to get vaccinations, we thought this would be the end.
Right.
But, if we go back very briefly to the issue of vaccine inequity, that's an issue flagged very early on and has also brought us to this point today, where there is a new variant, one that before we were even able to properly sigh a breath of relief, we're facing another wave. Let's just start off by looking at what we know about Omicron today. Do you want to start, Dr. Beer?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, what we know about Omicron is that it was first detected in November 11 in South Africa and Botswana. And it started out just by a medical practitioner observing that there was an increasing number of cases that were spreading rapidly among students, no? And then it was studied, and that is where they detected the Omicron variant.
Yeah.
The Omicron variant have 32 mutations on the spike protein, and it have 10 mutations on the receptor binding domain, which help the virus to enter the cells easily. No? And when you compare the Omicron with the other variants, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta, 26 unique mutations are to the Omicron compared to 4, 6, 8, and 7. 7 being the Delta, no? Um, so Omicron is just a way how the international classification of the variants are done using the Greek alphabet. So any other variation in the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, it will just follow the Greek alphabet. We heard before alpha, beta, gamma, epsilon, theta, kappa, lambda. We're at Omicron, and what follows is sigma, omega, etc. No? But we must be prepared to face on the challenges of COVID-19.
Of course.
And with the Omicron, there is research that was done in Hong Kong. And what they find is that the Omicron is less effective in attacking the lung cells, but it do replicate 70 times faster inside the body than Delta, but it's majorly located in the bronchus, and that could explain why we have this rapid transmission at community level.
Yeah.
They have less severity of the disease, shorter hospital stay if needed, and of course, well, the highly transmissible variant.
Okay.
Yes, well, I think there are three characteristics that pertain to Omicron. One, that it is highly infective. It's said to be 3 to 4 times more than the Delta, which was more effective than the Alpha. So that's one of its characteristics. It spread fast, and we have seen it over the last 2 weeks. Two, well, that's the bad part. The good part of it, it seems to be less virulent. So it's not going to kill as much people, and not going to be as much hospitalizations, right? So that's the good part. The other good part, I think, well, it depends how you look at it, is that it moves very rapid. So it's not going to linger along, or like the Delta for 4 to 5 months. I think the experience in South Africa has been that when they discovered it in late November, right now they're over it basically. In the UK, the same thing is happening. So if we follow the same pattern in Belize, it means we're going to have a hard month, but after that, it should move on. So those are, I think, are the three, what distinguishes from the previous variants.
I want to hone into the transmissibility issue for a moment, just because we had certain patterns for the first COVID-19 and then Delta. And we were told at one point, you know, when you look at exposure, you see if it was more than 15 minutes, mask or no mask, ventilated area. Are these still markers that we're using, or are we looking at transmissibility that is a shorter time of exposure?
It's a short time of exposure, but you know, what I've always said, no matter which variant you have, those public health measures are the same.
Yes.
So now I could feel, that's why, you know, as we mentioned, we have lab evidence. I mean, we don't have lab evidence, but we have epidemiological evidence. You see that rise, that meteoric rise. If you look at the graph the doctor provided, you know, it goes like that. And you have the clinical symptoms, you know, different symptoms that you're seeing than before. You don't really, it don't matter what the lab is going to show in the next week or two, the treatment is the same. Some things have changed, but the public health measures to prevent is the same for other things.
You know, I think it was the public health nurse last night that said she has not been able, she's not gotten COVID, and the only thing, being on the front lines, she knows that she does is that she never takes off her mask. And that's why when we talk about transmissibility, I know people let their guard down. After the vaccinations, especially, people started to say, well, we're safe. This time, though, I mean, they're even talking about, one, using proper masks, medical masks, and then secondly, some people are even advocating for double masking.
Well, it's not only the mask, okay? It's a whole behavior that prevents the infection. Remember, this thing is in phases. You want to prevent infection. And these are these public health measures that everybody knows about. The masking is just one of them. whether you'll get it or not depends not only on that, but if you are exposed with the exposure, the viral load, how much of it you're getting and how long you're in contact with this person. It depends on the person's immune system.
Yeah.
You know, if you have any disease that decreases your immune system, and one of them is not a disease but age, you know, you are at a higher risk. So it's a combination of factors. I don't think you can only say one, but certainly mask has been shown to be effective in preventing infection.
Dr. Beer?
Yes. No, totally agree with Dr. Quay. Vaccines, for example, are the most effective way of containing the transmission of diseases. And we have examples. Even here in Belize, if we look at the polio cases that we had, the last case was diagnosed in 1981, and we continue to provide the vaccine. And we have 40 years as a country without any case of polio. And there is a research paper in South Africa that was done recently looking at the Janssen vaccine and Pfizer vaccine. And they did find that the Omicron evades the antibodies even in some level from persons vaccinated and from persons who had COVID previously. But also they noted that there was a 14-folding developing antibody response to the variant. And the enhanced Delta neutralization was 4.4-fold for Omicron. And what this means is that it decreases the ability of Delta to reinfect individuals. So in other words, the Omicron itself protect against Delta, but Delta cannot protect against Omicron. And it was interesting because these two vaccines, we also have it in Belize available for the population, Johnson and Pfizer.
Yeah.
It's almost as if there are certain suggestions that it's better to catch Omicron than to catch Delta. If you're going to catch one, catch Omicron, right?
The problem with that is that you can't choose which one you're going to get.
Of course.
Because right now, there's a mixture. Right now, you have a mixture. You can get the Delta and the Omicron at the same time.
Can you?
Of course.
Yes.
So you can't say, well, I'll take off my mask because I want the Omicron. You don't get to choose. You know, so irrespective of the protective effect, you do the same public health measure. And I've said, you know, the course of this pandemic is not affected by how much ICU beds you have, how much respirators you have, because that is the end point of infection. The course of this pandemic will be determined by the behavior of we. And if we continue to have this activity that puts you at risk, getting in groups, not using your mask and what have you, that is what's going to drive the course of this pandemic. And if we do change our behavior, we prevent the infection, then everything else should be better. If we do not, we're going to end up with hospitalization.
But we do keep hearing that the Omicron variant is less deadly. Would you perhaps break that down for us a bit, just so we could understand what you mean?
I can. Let us say, and these are hypothetical figures, let us say the mortality rate of the Delta is 5%, which means for every 100 people, 5 will die. Hypothetical. Is more virulent. Let us say Omicron now is only 2.5%. So less people are going to die for 100 persons. But if you have a wave of 400 people getting infected, 4 times with 2.5 is 10. So not because it's less virulent, it means that you have less effect on the healthcare system. And that is why I say we need to protect the healthcare system so it doesn't get that surge at that end. So no matter how less virulent and what have you, if you get sheer numbers, you're going to overload the system. And we are seeing it already. For example, I'm sure Dr. can tell you the experience in the public system, but certainly at Belize Medical Associates, people that used to come 30, 40 patients per day for testing are up to above 100.
No, I mean, that's what I understand of it. If even if the virus is less deadly, as we put it, if a larger population contracts the virus, of course, within that larger population, there is a large number of persons whose immune systems are compromised, and then as a result, they stand to be high risk. So the more people that catch it, the higher chances of hospitalization among the immunocompromised, and then the higher chances of death, correct?
That's correct.
And I guess we should be careful when we say less deadly.
Right.
Because the vulnerable population, from what we know so far, are still at risk for severe COVID-19.
Definitely.
And our vulnerable population, including, about less than 10% elderly, 30% obese, it's about 20% diabetic, I think, Dr. Bear, with NCDs. And then we have hypertensive, cancer patients, and others who have other illnesses. So our vulnerable population in Belize alone is large.
Yeah. The only good thing about it is that Belize has a young population. That the majority of our the population is below age 20, and Dr. has the figures.
Yeah.
It's a bit different from the European countries where they have it inverted. The majority of their people are elderly, and so therefore their death rate, is much larger. That's one of the blessings that Belize has had, because we have a younger population.
So should we be concerned for our children at this point when it comes to the Omicron period?
That's a tricky question. One is that it's less, children have less complications, and they get it just like anybody else. If you're exposed to it, you're exposed to it. But because they have a robust immune system, they're young, they do not have as much of the hospitalizations and deaths. Now, of course, if you look at the data that is presented, below age 20, I think only one person has died since last year, August, September. It's telling you a lot. It doesn't mean the children are not getting it, but they don't have the side effects.
Dr. Bear?
Yeah, that's true. We observe that the complications and deaths in children is much lesser than adults.
Yeah. Let's tackle one of the issues that I know you both are very passionate about. And the last time I think we had you here together, it was to encourage pregnant women to get vaccinated. Doctora, pregnant women have been severely affected by COVID-19 once they end up hospitalized or have severe COVID. Let's look at what the numbers are saying and what's the recommendation with Omicron.
The recommendations for COVID-19 in general is for pregnant women to get vaccinated. At the beginning, because the vaccines were not tested among pregnant women, but throughout the year that we have now vaccines, the studies are showing that women that got vaccine and got pregnant shortly after, or women that were pregnant and did not know that they were pregnant and they got the vaccine, there is no evidence that the vaccines cause harm to the mom or to the unborn child. So it is recommended now for pregnant women to get vaccinated. The major amount of data available regarding COVID-19 vaccine and pregnancy is with the Pfizer vaccine. That is why we recommend, and worldwide it is recommended for pregnant women to get vaccinated with Pfizer vaccine. To date, our data is not showing good uptake of the vaccine among pregnant women. Definitely we need to invest more time in educating women to understand the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine. Pregnancy, just being pregnant is an increased risk for blood clots formation. And if the woman undergo a surgery, the risk doubles or increases more than 2 times. And then COVID-19, the disease itself, have a component related to blood formation of blood clots. So there is a lot of conditions that pregnant women need to understand the importance of getting vaccinated to protect against the disease. But for this year, 2021, we had 8 maternal deaths due to COVID-19. And the total number of maternal deaths was 17 for 2021. We had a case of homicide, we had pulmonary embolism, uncontrolled high blood pressure during pregnancy, and postpartum hemorrhage.
Wow.
And that's very high.
I was going to say, let's put this
Super
into
high.
perspective, because
Normally
we
get
were
about
at 0 and maybe 1.
I think 2 years we're at 0, but
Yes.
the average has been about 3 to 4 per year.
Yes. And this is a major indicator for the country when you're always asked about your maternal deaths and infant mortality. I understand in some of those COVID deaths, sometimes the baby died too?
Depend on the period of the pregnancy that the woman is infected, get complicated and die. So that could occur, yes.
Yeah. And part of the challenge, I understand, with pregnant women when they get severe COVID is that it's difficult to treat them.
No, you can still treat them. Remember, there's this risk-benefit ratio that if you are ill and there's high probability that you're going to die, we give the treatment.
Yeah.
Whatever is the standard
whatever
protocol,
is necessary.
With the same treatment.
Yeah.
The problem is because they have that the abdomen, the baby pushing on the lungs and less and compression, you know, it makes the pulmonary complications worse.
Yeah. You know,
Putting them on a prone position of a pregnant lady, you know, face down.
They can't lie down on their belly.
You know, which is the best way, you know, so it's compromised, the management.
The more we learn about the Omicron variant, the more it reminds us that it's not time to let our guards down. Despite the information and some of the more promising notes we have about the Omicron variant, it's not time to let our guards down when we're on the street. Still walk with our masks, still social distance, still sanitize our hands. But let me ask you, in terms of the alarming rate of transmissibility, the fact that we still have people socializing, what, if any, recommendations are being made to perhaps alter some of the current regulations to the realities of Omicron?
As I mentioned earlier, the course of the pandemic will be determined by the people of Belize. The public health measures have been there for the last 2 years, but we're not listening. We're not listening. So yes, there have been improvements in the management. For example, you know, you have newer antivirals that you can take. As you get diagnosed, you have the monoclonal antibodies that help once you get infected and hospitalized. But all of those really are the end point. We are not looking at the prevention part, because the prevention part are those public health measures that we mentioned earlier. It's easier to do. Well, I won't say it's easy because we know to do it, right? But it's cheaper to do because it doesn't cost much. When you go in the hospitalized for COVID, it's a lot of money. No matter whether it's public or private, it's the same, you know. It's a matter who will pay for it. And we need to move away from, say, well, there's hospital and there are drugs. We need to say we need to prevent it. Prevent it by the public health measures. Get vaccinated, that if you do get exposed, you're not going to have as much hospitalization and death by the vaccine. And the other thing that has always been said is the early detection with the testing that is available. And I think there's another improvement in that area, Doctora, is that, remember when we just began, it only had PCR. And that was difficult because it took you 2 to 3 weeks to get your result. Then with some hesitation, it was accepted to have the rapid test. And that has made a difference.
Knowing your results immediately
well, nowadays
makes a huge difference.
There are home
tests
that you can do, which I think is another improvement. Because you feel bad in the morning and you feel a little cough, you can do it yourself and isolate yourself. Right? So the earlier you make the diagnosis, the earlier you're going to isolate, the earlier you're going to tell the people around you, you might be exposed. And then that will lead to the control. So that's another thing I think we need to look at.
So let's talk about some practical advice for people, because I know Dr. Musa definitely helped us out yesterday in putting one thing into perspective, which is definitely get tested, but don't go too early, right? Because you may get a negative and turn out positive 3 days later.
That is correct.
So that's one of the
Yes.
first things we can say, that if you've knowingly been exposed, wait 3 days, isolate for 3 days, I should say, and then get tested.
Right.
Now, what we understand that the symptoms for Omicron are different. They're not what people are waiting for, lost a taste or smell, or a cough or fever. But what are some of the new symptoms now that may be presenting, what people are now presenting with Omicron? Dr. Bear?
The symptoms presented by the Omicron, they are milder than with the Delta variant. And one can expect body aches, muscle pain, headache, tiredness for 1 or 2 days, slight sore throat. And the message should be, if you feel ill with any possible symptom related to COVID-19, the test them that we're using, they work very well when the person is symptomatic. So if you have symptoms, there is no doubt that you will have, you may be positive if you're infected.
Yeah.
But the issue is for the close contacts. And as Dr. Diaz did mention correctly, the incubation period is from 2 to 14 days. And the average is 5 to 7 days. So you should wait at least 5 days if you have no symptoms to get tested. And the Ministry of Health and Wellness have invested in more persons dedicated for contact tracing. So once a person is positive, then this person is interviewed to identify all those other persons that were exposed to them. And then they would call them and give them an appointment. What is happening, what we have been observing, as you rightly said earlier, that people are showing up to the testing sites earlier than the date that was given. And that is one of the problems for the spread of the disease, especially among asymptomatics, that they reach too early, they get a negative results, and then
they go on and spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to a certain extent it depends on the test that you're doing. Remember, you have different kind of tests, right?
Yes.
The rapid test is the sensitivity is not 100%.
Yeah.
It's somewhere around 80, 85, depending where you get it. Remember, even those tests have to be approved.
Yes.
And I think Belize at the moment is only accepting WHO approved rapid tests. The PCR testing is more sensitive. And the methodology is about 99%. It decreases depending how you do the swab, whether you do it properly, and whether it's done properly in the lab. It may decrease the sensitivity. So the PCR will pick up infection much quicker than the rapid test.
Yeah.
And so that is why obviously you can't do PCR on everybody, because it's expensive and it takes longer. So the argument that yes, if it's a rapid test you're going to do, it's best you wait a few days.
Yes.
And if you need to know, then you can do the PCR. And the same thing happens if you are symptomatic and you go and the rapid test is negative, you should do a PCR.
The challenge I'm finding is the change in symptoms, because it's more like a cold. People are dismissing symptoms, and they may just have a cold. You don't know. But they're at home saying, oh, I just have a cold. So that's one of the things. And also gastrointestinal, like vomiting and diarrhea are also associated. So you may just have diarrhea or a sick stomach, and that might actually be a mild case of Omicron.
Right. Well, that is why any change in your health status, I think that's the first thing you need to think. Yeah. That's the first thing you need to think about and to do.
And how do you? So even if I'm sitting at home sniffly, or maybe just having a bad allergy day, and I say, well, it's just allergies or a cold, it's probably safer for me to just get tested.
That is right. And that's why I mentioned the concept of home testing. That if you're at home and you have the little allergy and you want to know, that can improve your detection rate and then the isolation that follows with it.
Yeah, one of the recent developments we saw coming out of the Ministry of Health is has to do with the time span, the shortening of the time span for isolation, quarantine. Would you speak perhaps to the rationale behind that, and is that as a direct result of the information we have on the Omicron variant?
That is, if you test positive.
If you test positive for asymptomatic.
I think that, well, you know, if you remember a year ago, when we had positive tests, remember people
We
used
used
to
to
be
wait
isolated.
on the negative PCR.
You take about a month.
Yes, some people were in isolation
then we
for a
realized
month.
that what PCR was finding positive, what you call ghost DNA. It's not live virus, right? And we realized it was too good.
Yeah.
And so when they did viral studies to see if it grew, they find that, man, within 14 days, nothing today. Even though you're positive,
You're not shedding.
You're not shedding.
Yeah.
And so that is why now it has been brought down up to 7 days. 7 days. That's what I think. I think it's 10. The
ministry is saying 10.
10 days, yes.
7 for healthcare
workers, right.
Okay.
And so that is the idea behind it, that we have been too afraid of from the beginning, which you know, because we didn't know.
Yeah.
But now that we have more studies done, we can see we could shorten it.
So,
basically
your
like a
thoughts
flu,
on
no?
the CDC guidelines of 5 days?
Sorry?
What are your thoughts on the CDC's guidelines of
Well,
5
I've
days?
thought about it. It looks a bit short to me. What I would say is that yes, accept it, but do a test to make sure you're negative before you go back into the workplace.
Yes, yes. Doctor, I see you shaking your head. Tell me.
Yes, I think that is the practice that they are doing. They get tested before going back to work.
For the asymptomatic cases that are now allowed to isolate for only 10 days, let's just clarify, because asymptomatic means different things to different people. So I might have a sore throat and feel like I have nothing, or sneeze every now and again. Is that asymptomatic?
No, you have to have a positive test.
No, I mean if I'm positive and I have
no symptoms, yeah.
a sore throat, I am not considered asymptomatic. That is a symptom. So once I feel anything, I am a symptomatic case.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel anything, then you're asymptomatic. And you're saying, basically, what I understand you're saying is that if you go back into the workplace as an asymptomatic patient after 10 days, the chances of you
shedding is zero.
Transmitting is zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hence the new guidelines that are out.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's even if you test positive before going
because
back
I told
to
you
work after the 10 days.
Most of the studies show after 7 days, you're not. It might be positive, but you're not shedding.
Yeah. But and that's why I'm glad we mentioned that, because the symptoms are what makes the difference. If I'm coughing at day 7, I am still sharing the illness. I want to come back to a question that we asked earlier, because one of our viewers were asking about children who have other conditions, if they're asthmatic, if they're diabetic. What's your recommendation for them? Dr. Bear?
For children, well, vaccines would be a good recommendation, but we don't have, unfortunately, vaccine for younger kids. We're going to have vaccines for children from 12 to 17. But definitely, I mean, the care that the family provides to these kids to prevent crisis situations, no? And the protection, the public health measures that we mentioned need to be, we need to be more careful with these kids now.
So it's probably, if your child has asthma, for example, which is a common childhood disease, you probably shouldn't send them back to school.
No, but asthma is not an immunocompromised situation. The diabetics you're talking about.
The diabetics would?
People that have renal, children that have disease, comorbidities. Asthma is not a increase, interferes with your immune system.
Okay, so that's key to know for parents as well. Other advice. I mean, this is such a tough situation with Omicron, because it's almost, we say and hear mild, and we may let our guards down. But I think as both of you explained, one, vulnerable people are still at risk. And two, the vulnerability of the healthcare system we have in Belize is perhaps the biggest concern.
Well, not even Belize, everywhere.
Yeah.
You look at rich countries.
If the first world countries can't keep up, then
Much less us. So
the United States, I think, had a record million new cases in one day.
Yes.
In all of the pandemic, you've never seen that many cases detected in one
Right,
day.
but remember, detection and positivity rate in the Omicron does not translate into hospitalization and death. So don't get frightened.
Yes.
You know.
Right.
But I get frightened because I think we haven't hit our peak yet. The epidemiology
No,
wave.
definitely not. Remember I told you it takes about a month. It
Yeah.
runs through very lightning speed, but you know, and
So if we get a high number and our vulnerable people are forced to be hospitalized all at the same time,
right.
that's the concern that we have.
That is where the public health measures have to kick in.
Yeah.
That's where we are, and we're asking everybody to take responsibility, which we didn't see over the holidays, which we didn't see because people, what can I say, they felt that they were not vulnerable. I saw it, you know, New Year's and what have you. And they are young people, yes, so they will not die. Most likely they will not going to be hospitalized. But they have their parents and grandparents and aunts that can get infected. You know, so they're looking at it from a very selfish point of view to say, well, I'm not vulnerable, so I could party and I could take off my mask. But remember, when you go home, there are people who are vulnerable, and a lot of us live with our parents or aunt. You know, we have a community that you see about five houses in the yard, so you know that it's an extended family is there.
Even if it's not the same house or same room,
at some
it's
point,
the same yard.
and they eat together and what have you.
But Doc, let me bring that back to you though, because you're a member of the task force, and you and other medical professionals put advice forward towards the ministry.
The ministry is.
Advice, not you don't tell them what to do.
No.
But one of the concerns from the public is always enforcement and perhaps not responding with enough regulations when things start to escalate.
Yeah. Well, you know, regulations really has, I think, limited usefulness. You know, you could put to say we will stop curfew at 10.
Okay.
Or
9.
11
People still find a way around it. I mean, I do night work, and I come out at 12 in the morning to go and see a patient. I see a lot of vehicles on the road, so you know that it's not happening. That if it's just the people who went out for New Year's Day and take the risk. People take the risk also. We have parties you hear big party, home parties.
Yeah.
You know, no matter regulations, how much you put, it's not as effective. It's not, and you know, it leads to a lot of quarrel with the policemen. You see it when they're trying to enforce these things. You know,
so that's what.
At the end of the day, I think we have to ask everybody to be responsible. And I know it's hard because it's a behavior modification that you're not used to. It's hard.
So that's kind of the thinking as to where you are, that even if you change curfew, you still see people breaking it, and you still see people gathering, and our police resources are also limited.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems of the Omicron, because it is so rapid, so infective, that it will infect all the people who are essential services.
Yeah.
The policemen, the doctors. I think I heard over the news about 40 healthcare workers are infected at Carl Hushner. I don't know what percentage of the of the workforce at Carl Hushner, but that's a lot. You know, and so we may very soon have policemen that, you know, the 10-20% are infected, they can't work. The firemen, you know, the healthcare workers.
Even the tourism sector we talked to the tourism sector. We spoke with CEO Cancino from KHMH. They've all said the same thing. The big concern, while we keep on saying, oh, it's mild and highly transmissible, but if everybody has it at the same time, and we are expected to be safe
there's going to be a
and
disruption
isolate,
of services.
things will be disrupted. Essential services will be disrupted. And we have seen that take place in other places when the airlines had to cancel thousands of flights because their workers were testing positive. So how do we mitigate that? Even if it comes back to an economic issue, how do we mitigate that? Other than we're asking people to do the same thing for almost 2 years, and they're not complying. Some are, but not all. What recommendations do you think need to be made? Dr. Bear?
I would bring to the table the point of we can be safer against COVID-19 if we have antibodies, no? And the antibodies, we can get it through natural infection, and we can get it through vaccines. Now, there is a big difference. If you are exposed to the virus and you have no vaccine, then more unlikely you will develop the disease. But the disease, it has been proven that the virus is found in different organs in the body. So it's no longer a respiratory infection. Yeah. It's a systemic disease. So why expose ourselves to the consequences of the virus affecting all these other organs when we can get the antibodies through vaccines to keep us safer with as it relates to COVID-19. And yes, we are painting I would say a milder picture of COVID-19 with Omicron, but there is a lot we don't know yet about Omicron. And it's the same SARS-CoV-2 with mutations. So again, I mean, I cannot stress enough the need for protection using the vaccines. And these studies that were done in South Africa with the Johnson and the Pfizer is very good news. Yeah. Very good news that people should take advantage of this information that we are sharing.
I hear you. I hear both of you. In other words, let's not take this lightly. And I do want to take a moment to say that in all our 2021 look back, we haven't acknowledged something very important, that we have had a critical milestone. Dr. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Belize is now over 50% vaccinated, right?
48%, I think.
Not there yet.
Almost?
Few decimals less.
Yeah, it's like 49.
Yeah, she rounded it off.
I rounded off for you. I mean, some countries didn't hit that 40% marker that WHO was hoping for.
So there are a lot of the African countries are 10%.
So we are close. The problem now is boosted, or persons with a booster is really fully vaccinated. And how is the booster uptake going?
Well, we still have 100,000 persons pending vaccination, and that is data for today.
They have no vaccination or no booster?
None.
No vaccination or a small amount, about 15,000 that have only first dose. But vast majority have no vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have vaccines. And I said before that if this 100,000 persons, 12 years and older, that haven't been vaccinated, if they show up to the vaccination sites, they will get vaccinated because we have the amount of vaccines that are needed to vaccinate these persons.
Yeah. Are we still seeing a slow trickle, or is it, I mean, what's the rate of uptake for new vaccinations at this point?
We're seeing a slow trickle still yet. I guess it's the end of year celebrations, no?
Yeah.
Yes, it's unfortunate that about 35% of the target population have not come up for vaccination. It's a lot because if we, as Dr. said, if that 35% showed up, it would make a big difference to reaching that herd immunity level that we want to achieve. And so that's another task. Now, how do you get 100,000, 601,000 persons to come forward, you know?
Yeah, and it's a bigger challenge because if they haven't come in the past year, when we've really seen the worst of COVID, how do we get them now to get those shots?
Yeah.
What about vaccinating children under 12? Are we anywhere closer to recommendations
No,
for
I
that?
think Dr. can tell you that it has to be WHO approved.
Okay.
And I think it's FDA approved, Pfizer, but
Yes.
not WHO. And then it goes through what they call the COVAX system of getting vaccines. So I think that's months away, but Dr. is in charge of vaccines.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, the CARICOM is looking at negotiations once it's approved by the FDA. So we just have to wait on that to finalize. I think the next meeting will be mid-January.
You said approved by FDA. Do you mean WHO?
WHO.
Once it's approved?
It's not yet approved by WHO, but once there are more than one stringent regulatory authorities approving the vaccine in children below 12, then other countries can use it safely because you have one or more stringent regulatory authorities that approve it.
I think one final question for me.
Yes.
As we look into the future, many of us have our eyes now on the IHU variant. Not to bring any alarm, but news emerged of this variant yesterday internationally, a variant detected in France. What do we know so far, if anything?
We don't know much,
about
but as I said earlier, it doesn't matter. It's the same treatment to prevent, and it's the same treatment to treat. So no matter which blow you bring, we already have what we need to do. Our problem is that we are not doing what we need to do.
All right.
And that's the challenge.
Well, let's close off with that. I mean, there are people watching right now who say, oh, well, if it's mild, you know, why bother? I can't get into you know, I think one of the things is keeping the message clear to people on why it's important that we do our part.
I mentioned it earlier that I think it's selfish for you to say, why bother? Because you have relations, you have family who you can infect and who can die. So everybody should look at that aspect. It's not me, it's supposed to be the community, the family that I must protect.
And any closing thoughts from you, Dr. Bear?
Well, this situation, as Dr. Kweli mentioned earlier, is not forever, but we're not there yet. So vaccines have proven to be the most effective preventive measures, along with the other public health measures that are recommended. So I would highly continue recommending get vaccinated. Why exposed to the consequences of the SARS-CoV-2, Omicron or whatever other variant come along is SARS-CoV-2, and SARS-CoV-2 is a systemic disease, so vaccination.
All right. Well, thank you both for giving us the latest information and advice. And of course, we continue to reiterate the same message. We all have to do our part. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. Now, the next conversation is about another kind of recovery, right? That financial recovery we need from Christmas and also from the strains of the pandemic. We'll have that conversation with Dr. Williams in a few. Please stay tuned.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
The ministry is collaborating with SpeedNet Communications to have a vaccination campaign for children ages 12 to 17 years. Children who get vaccinated will get a chance to win fabulous prizes, including backpacks with supplies, Nintendo Switch, tablets, book tuitions, and MiFi with 3 months data. Only children 12 to 17 years old can participate in this Smart and Ministry of Health and Wellness raffle. At vaccination sites, each vaccinated child, upon being vaccinated, will receive a ticket to place their name, age, date of birth, BHIS number, and contact information on, which will be filled out by a parent or legal guardian. The sooner a person vaccinates, the more chances he or she will have to win. Get vaccinated, please. Vaccination saves lives.
It's almost lunchtime and Alice is getting hungry and forgot to bring cash. She remembers that eCash now has a geolocation feature in which she can easily view the eCash merchants near her, especially restaurants. Her co-workers also ask her to order food for them.
Chicken chow mein, please, and a Coke.
The merchant sends her the payment link. She taps confirm, and within a few minutes, her food is delivered. Alice then views her transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made. Then taps the split the bill button where she selects the unevenly option and moves the bar to the desired amount per person. The request is then sent to her friends. Her colleagues accept the request and are ready to enjoy their meals. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash make Alice's life a whole lot easier.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Are back and we're moving into our second conversation for today, and we want to tell you, please just tune into the conversation. Don't shut us out yet. I know when we talk about financial planning and trying to get our finances into order, a lot of people instinctively want to say, no, I don't want to hear that. But we have a Belizean who is a professor in the United States joining us. Of course, Dr. Albert Williams is the chair of the Finance and Economics Department at Nova Southeastern University in South Florida. He is joining us to be able to tackle this really tough topic of bouncing back after all the financial constraints of COVID-19. Good morning, Dr. Williams.
Good morning, Melanie. How are you?
I am doing great. Ready to tune into some of your advice, and happy to have you with us.
Well, I'm pleased to be here for both of you, and I will share what I have with you. And see where we can go from there. So you lead the discussion.
Well, I want to start off first because we love talking with Belizeans who are excelling in other parts of the world and doing great things. Dr. Williams, you lived and worked in Belize for a while before you moved to the United States to continue teaching. Tell us a bit about your background.
Okay. You know, I started off as a high school math teacher in Claver College too long ago, but I really started my career a long time. For those who don't know anymore. What is Claver College?
Yeah, I don't. I'm unaware of what is Claver College.
Okay. I did 2 years there, and then I went to study in Calgary, Canada, math. And then I came back and I taught at Belmopan Comprehensive for 5 years. I taught hundreds of wonderful, good students at that time. See that?
Yeah, actually, I actually graduated from the Belmopan Comprehensive High School, so there you go.
Isn't that nice?
It is.
I was there teaching math and mostly, so that's great, Paul. Then I kind of changed careers and I went to DFC. The basic knowledge of math is a good foundation for any career. So I went to DFC for a while and I gave student loans and housing loans, and that changed my career forever. And so I went to study economics, and then I came back to the Ministry of Agriculture and I did economic policy and tried to help farmers in Belize. I worked there for a while. Went back to study, got a PhD in economics and finance at the University of Georgia. And then I came back and I worked at the Belize Marketing Board as the CEO and tried to give quality rice for Belizeans. I don't want any more stones in the rice. You like that?
Work closely with the rice farmers in the South, right?
Absolutely. Nearly 2,000 of them, big and small. We made sure their quality rice was there. And that I did for many years. Then I moved back to the United States to take my kids to university, and I still kept up with Belize. But I worked at Burger King corporate office for a while, and that exposed me to how billion-dollar decisions were made. You heard me, billion-dollar decisions, not thousands or millions. And that's a huge exposure. So when we talk about chicken, we talk about $5 billion worth of chicken for the restaurants. That's opens your mind, you know?
Yeah.
But teaching is in my DNA, so I returned to universities and I ended up at Nova Southeastern University. I teach economics, finance at graduate and undergraduate level. I've supervised many dissertations. I've won many awards. I don't usually make a big deal of them. I just do the calling that God has asked me to give. And so I keep on giving, but never forget Belize. I'm always at home 4 or 5 times a year. I do investments. I give presentations at the university. I do talk shows. I am very involved with the Belize's development. So when you invited me, I said, let's go.
That's right. Okay. I love your enthusiasm. And I appreciate you taking on one of the tough topics that people don't like thinking about. And that is personal financial planning and taking into account all the challenges that people have faced over the past 2 years. Doc, you know, where do we start? Everybody wants to be able to put themselves in a better position to provide for themselves and their families. But it's very often difficult to do for various reasons in Belize.
Right. Let me tell you, everybody says, I want to be financially literate. Well, to be financially literate, I have taught that course for 10 years. And I don't know if you'll see this, but this is a big book that you have to cover. It's about an inch thick. And if you cover that book, then we say you have the basics of financial literacy.
Wow.
But when somebody say you're literate, what it means? You could read and write, right?
Yes.
So when you say you're financially literate, that means you could read and write finance. So you have to be able to talk finance. So finance means very straightforward. You have to do planning. I want to save. I want to do things into the future. That's financial planning. Then you have to budget. You have to say, I make so much, I spend so much, and I have to keep tabs on both sides of that equation. And savings is part of it. You have to do tax. You have to pay the government. And the rule is usually what? You don't pay too much. You don't overpay. You have to just pay what's your legal share. Then you have to buy big items. You want stove, fridge, and washer. Those not come 2 cents. You have to spend 1,000, 2,000. Then you have to buy a car. We have a whole chapter on buying a car. That's not easy.
Wow.
Everybody think buying a car is easy. That's a lot of commitment, right? They buy a house. Buy a house is no easy task when you're going for a mortgage. It's a big deal anywhere in the world. The next one is insurance. You have to learn about life insurance, health insurance, and property insurance. You drive a car, you have to pay insurance. Then, of course, you have to invest. That's the key part. Save and invest. That's a whole 3 chapters of it. Then the last part where people not always don't know much about is estate planning. When you make all the money and you get old like me and you have some and you're going to pass on, who are you going to give it to? That's a big job. But Belize has a whole different set of challenges. 2 out of every 3 people are considered poor.
Yes.
So all this story I'm telling you is not so easy for people to digest right now, especially with the COVID. COVID and Omicron, what have it done to us? Made us poorer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Can I just say a moment to say thank you? Because I've heard all the other parts before, but thank you for taking into account the Belizean reality. And when you're poor, and we talk about things, and poor means different things to different people, but when you are stretched, your salary done before you get it, and you talk to people about saving, it's almost offensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
you know, Marlene, but let me tell you what, when I was preparing for this presentation, I said I could give you all the academic stuff, but that's not Belize. Belize has people who are struggling. You hear the phrase hand to mouth?
Yes.
That phrase really mean it. You're getting money in one hand and you really have to buy food to put it in your mouth because you can't buy much clothing and shoes and all that other things. So people are going around every day trying to stretch that dollar to see how much they could get for their little paycheck. And so we have to respect that and not bombard them with all of this. You should have been no better. This, no. You need to help people to be able to use the little money they have. And that's a very, very big concern. You agree?
Absolutely. Let me share a story I read with you once. It was about how being poor costs more. And the story goes that when you're poor and you can only afford a $30 boots that you need for work, it's not durable, won't last, you'll need another one in 6 months. You end up paying far more in the long run than someone who can afford the quality boots that would last for much longer. So not only can't you get the quality that you need, but you pay more for cheaper. And I think it's such a great example.
Totally a great example, because you have to understand when you're poor, you can't buy a $60 or $100 boots. You're going to buy one that you could afford, but usually lower price tend to be lower quality.
Yeah.
And this is a real challenge that Belizeans face. So have a typical Belizean, maybe make $200 a week. Basically, that all the money going into basically basic needs, food, maybe pay the light and the water, but there's very little more in there that you could say, man, I'm gonna take my leave trip, I'm going to Key for a leave weekend. That not, you're thinking, you have to think about how to survive, but I need to be optimistic also.
Yes.
Right.
If Sunday you want to eat ice cream and that one cost you $5, man, eat the ice cream, but not eat ice cream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So how does
you only eat it Sunday?
Okay.
How does financial literacy apply in those situations, if any at all, perhaps to help people in those circumstances to better their situation?
You know, Paul, it is very important that all walks of life understand financial literacy. So that poor person has to understand that every dollar you spend has to be spent properly. So you're not going to waste it in a silly little thing. So here's an example of food. If you eat out, you want $5 chicken, $4 chicken every day, you will not have money to live. Why not buy a chicken, cook it, add some vegetables and a few things, and you'll eat more healthily, as well as you be able to stretch that chicken for 4 or 5 meals, or at least for a whole day. So those are the kinds of things that you have to think about. Now, I bring in a lot about food because, you know, I have a background in agriculture. People need to learn to plant their okra and they eat pepper and they eat tomatoes and, you know, they eat pan. I say even 4 pieces of board in a Belize city, you could plant only 2 tomatoes or something to try to help to reduce the cost of living. So the other one I talked about, that I thought about was, man, when you have the lights on and running, if you don't need the lights, turn it off. If you don't need to keep the air conditioner on in a cool day, turn it off. Please, think about little things that you can do. And I always refer to this as a family affair. Everybody has to help. You agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's tackle the big one. So when you're talking about, 2/3 of the population living in poverty, that also translates to something else. People are probably very much in debt. And when you're in debt, it can keep on growing and it reaches a point where you don't know how to get out. Let's talk about that part, because if you're going to talk about financial health, you got to deal with the sickness first.
Yes. All right. Now, debt, when you borrow, you have to pay back the original amount plus interest. That's as simple as it gets. Nobody lend you money for just the zero interest. The challenge we have right now with the COVID, when people lost their jobs for the last 2 years, many of those borrowings, the mortgage and the car payments and so on, became something on your back, a weight on your back that's even heavier. And so remember, I have had this discussion across Belize, and even the banks and the government, everyone, they're trying to help you. Now, what I would not want you to do, and I'm sure the banks will not allow you, is for you to get into more debt.
Yeah.
Right now, if you have so much debt right now, you better lay low with debt and just live survival. And later on, when your income come up, don't go crazy and borrow too much again. But if you have debt right now, you need to renegotiate that debt, or you need to find a way to work out some rescheduling. But it is not easy for somebody who has a mortgage, lost that job in the tourist industry, and now that person is struggling. So it is not an easy thing. And here's the challenge when you have hand to mouth. There is no cushion. There's no financial cushion. So when you lose that job, you basically only have money to live for a month or two to pay your bills regularly. And after that, boy, it is rough on many, many families. And so the system has to also come in and help out. It's not only the individual, the system. And therefore, when the banks are a little more lenient with you and not hurry sell your property, that's a good thing. And if the government can help out with some pantry and some other things, that's also very important, because you didn't do this by yourself. It's I don't want people to take the blame that is because of their poor financial literacy that they're in the mess they're in. It's much bigger. It's a pandemic mess we're in, correct?
Yes, yes. So that's a great step. So first, don't take on any more debt.
None.
As much as you can, don't take on any more debt, and try to refinance what you have. Now let's go back to tourism is a great example. People were out of work for over a year. And we saw so many people just, they got their side hustle on, they tried to make some money. Now they're going back to work. But it's not automatically resuming, it's playing catch up with everything that you haven't paid. And that can be daunting. What's your advice there?
Okay, let me tell you, that catch up thing, I wrote notes on that because it is very daunting. It's somewhat depressing. Yeah. Here's the deal with those people who lost, let's go to the public officers, but I'll go to the ones who lost their jobs too. You lost 10%, right?
Yeah.
If inflation is 5, and I think it's more, after 1 year, you need 50% adjustment to catch up. Does that make sense to all of you? I hope the viewers are listening to me. Well, if you had 10% reduction in salary and inflation went up 5%, then the only way for you to get on par is for you to get 15% adjustment in your salary. I don't see that happening.
Wow.
So basically, people are worse off because of the money, because of inflation. And inflation is a global phenomenon right now because of what's going on in the world, everything that's been slowing down. So when you see prices going up in Belize, it's impacting. And Marlene, you said something very, very important. The poor gets hurt the most with inflation than the wealthy. So I want you to see this, that catching up is a very challenge. It's kind of like if you were due an increment and you didn't get it. You cannot, it's hard to catch up. The only way to catch up is if you can change job and get a higher salary, and that's not realistic. Now let's come to the people who lost their jobs completely and sitting at home helping out with the yard cleaning and so on. if you lost your job and you went off income for a year or a year and a half, it's not easy to catch up on that amount of money at all. So I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I would say I'll take it as a loss, and then I will work hard when I get back my job to try to invest and build some more again. But once it's gone, it's very difficult to catch up. As I gave you this story, 10% loss, you need 15% adjustment if inflation is 5. And I can tell you inflation is more than 5%.
Yeah, I think
scary, isn't it? It's scary. It's scary.
You've stunned us to silence now, right? So, but what you also did, to be clear, is validate what people have been feeling.
Yeah.
When you say that it feels harder than the numbers are showing. But you know, we don't want people to stay there. So,
nope.
What's the advice? What are some practical tips, understanding the Belizean reality, that people can do to keep on surviving and move towards thriving?
Okay, here is how I'd say. The pandemic is an outlier. There are only 2 sessions in the last 100 years that we've had this kind of economics really, really bad. So the whole purpose now is like what we call in economics Darwinism, survival of the fittest, right? So all Belizeans listening to me, find the energy and the strength that you're going to make it and survive. And like what Dr. Koyi and your guest, Dr. Beer, was saying earlier, you need to stay on top of the Omicron and the COVID, all of that's going on. Okay, that's survival of the fittest also. But economic survival means that you may have some low periods right now, still have to eat, still have to pay the basic bills, but don't do crazy money shopping. Do not go and leverage out and borrow for a car or a house, all of that right now. It's just not strategic and it's not wise. Live, survive, and do not go and buy luxury items at this point in time. Just make sure you're making it. Now, when we get over, by the way, I don't know if we'll get over zero with the pandemic, but we'll learn to live with it.
Yes.
And when that comes and the world starts to get back to some normalcy, if that were to happen, and I think there's some of it will happen, then I think you could start to flex your muscles and start to get involved with some of the bigger items like buying new refrigerant stoves and so on, and buying cars and even getting into house and so on. But it's a tough call for us and for our Belizean people. I have another data that really makes you, I'm going to say it, but I want people to understand that the system problem is bigger. It's a system of inequality. So the bottom 50% of Belizeans make about 12% of the income. But the bottom 50% of Belizeans only own 5% of the wealth in the country. That's a real concern of mine. I want people to become less poor. And one way to become less poor is they need to create wealth. And we have to, as a country, as leaders, we have to put in strategies and policies to ensure that the poor are not left out there in the cold. So you see my hand? I want to move the income upward so that the bottom people make more. And if the wealthy make more too, that's fine. But these in the bottom 50, we got to put in things in place to help those people to get empowered. Empowerment is secret to success. You need more income, you need more education, and I like the story, you need to be more healthy. There's no one solution, hosts. There's no one solution. I like to use 5. You have to get the top 5 to solve problems. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm here saying right on, because there's so much of what you're saying that's important, and it's giving a voice to what people feel in the country. You know, even when you think of families that perhaps have been able to barely survive, they make their mortgage payment, but barely. They're thinking college is down the road for their children. They know that college is important. And there are big expenses that come whether or not you can or can't delay them. What's given the fact that our opportunities for investment in Belize are so limited, if you know you rely on a savings that's what 1%, it's better under the mattress sometimes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how families that they have big expenses coming up for the children, how they can get there as well.
That, you know, Marlene and Paul, that is the ultimate question, because to break the cycle of poverty, you need the children to do better than the parents.
Right.
And one way for that to happen is for the children to be educated. I'm not kidding. I'm a living example of very humble beginnings. And it started off by the little that our parents can do to get us educated, and then we made a better life. And we're not wealthy, but we certainly have gone from where we started to where we are today. So those parents who really want the kids to go to college, do what you have to do. There were, in my younger days when I was a banker at DFC, we had student loans, and I gave hundreds of loans to Belizeans parents to help their kids to go to college, and that has helped so many people. So people need to see the long-term benefit of education, and it'll come back and help the parents in the future. So it's a win-win thing to get your children educated. Right now in the pandemic, it is hard to find the money to live. But in the future, education is for a very long period of time. So if you miss a year and you try to tell your children, you know what, when times get better, we're going to get back on track. If you can borrow the money for education, that would be the exception to the rule. I would say let them get their education, but try to not go crazy with the education. If you could get your first 2 years or so here in Belize, or you could get your bachelor's in Belize, do it at home where the cost is cheaper. Don't go borrow $100,000 to come to a school in Miami if you're really struggling. That's for the rich. But if you really want to get your kids, and I'm not kidding, I want the poor people to get their children to be educated. Now, people will say, no, man, it's not only education. Education empowers. You could use it for life skills. You could start a business. You could get a job. It empowers you to think differently. And I am all in the belief that we can do better if we're empowered. I really don't like the idea of long-term handouts. Handouts are good, but they should only help you to get you on your feet. Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. We could keep going and going with this. We need to bring you back to talk about this in a broader sense.
Definitely.
But let's look at the year ahead.
Right.
Originally this conversation was looking at the recovery from the pandemic. Unfortunately, we look like we may be hunkering down for what will be another challenging start to the year. The experience of 2020 was traumatizing for a lot of people, financially and health-wise. What's the advice as to what to do as families or as small businesses or entrepreneurs? What do they do now when there is the possibility of another devastating wave?
Okay, that was one of the questions I was asked to look at. And when I said, when will the pandemic go over, I wrote a little sarcastic answer, but I said in Spanish, ¿Quién sabe?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Because, look, we thought we were going downhill with COVID and Delta, and then all of a sudden Omicron came about, and now it's hitting the whole world again. So the issue here is that we have to hunker down again, and we have to take care of our finances, we have to take care of our health. Sorry, I wish I could have told you that now it's time to relax and go on. Like I heard Dr. Cowie saying that some people were having a heck of a party at Christmas and it's likely they could infect their families. That isn't real. And so you guys, the Belizeans, have to remember that we're tired of it. I live in America. People over here are tired of it. So, but tired doesn't mean that it cannot catch you. Tired means that you're just letting your guards down. So if economically this COVID is and its strains are actually still existing and still powerful, and so the pandemic is not over. Please do not take the idea that that Omicron is easy going. If you're not vaccinated, that Omicron will get you very sick. Now, I recommend financially that you keep managing your money the way you can. Try to get a job. I had something that I wanted to say before I continue though. If you see a young man or a person coming around trying to do a little job here and there, earning a living for like wash a car or clean your yard or do something, and you could afford that $10 or $20, maybe it's a good idea to give that person, because for you it is $20 to wash your car, but for him that's 3 meals. And so you have to see the context of private helping private, not only government helping private. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Two groups of people have to help one another. Belizeans have to help each other. And all the Christmas gift they call them, throughout the country made a little help, but we need to help people after Christmas too. So we gave a lot of parcels. All my family, I was in PG for a week last week, and everybody was so happy. Hey, I got a little bag from the government. I got a little bag from the government. And I said, oh yeah, so you had a little better Christmas. But Christmas is only one time of year. We need to have something going on.
Yeah.
And people need to also empower themselves and try. If you live in a farm and you don't have even a tomato or you don't have anything in the yard, man, you need to plant something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you got to stay on top. Stay on top. Do not give up. Do not go crazy and spend crazily. Keep tabs. If you have a little extra money, like you say, hide it under the mattress, but make sure nobody see where you put it when you put it there. But I prefer you put it in the bank, not under the mattress.
It's safer there. Or
yeah, because somebody or a family or a friend come on your house and they leave out the mattress, they find 100 days, you might take it, then you'll have enemy with your family.
Dr. Williams, this has been a pleasure. I hope we have you back very soon to be able to really dive into some of the issues that you brought up today. But I think some of the key takeaways is looking at the fact that we still got to hang tight as we get through this next wave of COVID-19. And we have to be helpful towards each other and also very realistic about what we can spend our money on.
Absolutely. You have summarized. You're a good teacher, you know, you summarize it beautifully. But that's the whole idea. We're educating, but at the end of the day, you have to leave some gems with people, and that's the gem I'm leaving. We need to help each other. Yeah. We need to, if you have entrepreneurs, try to get them out there, make them, their juices flow so that they could hire people. Remember, we need entrepreneurs to hire people. Right. And if we hire people, we improve their lives. Isn't that amazing?
All right. All right. This has been a lovely conversation. I am sure we'll be talking with you again very soon. Great to see you. And of course, please stay safe.
And the same to you.
All right. And there you have it. That was a conversation with Dr. Albert Williams, a professor in South Florida.
Such a great conversation.
Yeah.
We'll take a break.
Yeah.
And I see that we're already preparing for some drumming, and so when we come back, we will be having Musa Shahid in studio with us to teach us all about Creole culture drumming.
And let me tell you ahead of time, you're going to be far better at this. I have no rhythm when it comes to drumming, so we'll see how this goes.
Be interesting.
We'll be back in a few.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts with another 60-second sermon from God's Word.
The Bible says, Then Pilate called Jesus and said unto him, Art thou the King of the Jews? Jesus answered him, Sayest thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell it thee of me? Throughout my travels, I have found in every home old Bibles, pianos, organs, clocks, antique furniture, and other treasures that have been handed down from one generation to the next. But there's one thing you cannot get to heaven with, and that is a hand-me-down religion. As one old deacon used to say, you can't get to heaven on your mother's apron strings or your father's coat tail. Jesus must personally be embraced. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist denomination, discovered that being a Christian involved a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. He had always thought that he was a true Christian until one day on a ship caught in a storm on the Atlantic Ocean, fear got a hold of him. He noticed the only people on board who was not fear-stricken were a group of Moravian missionaries. Later, when the storm was abated, he asked one of them, Were you not afraid? Afraid, said the Moravian. Why should I be afraid? I know Christ. And then looking at Wesley with disconcerting frankness asked, Do you know Christ? John Wesley for the first time realized that he did not, and there on that ship gave his life to Christ. You say that you are a Christian, but I ask you the question that Jesus asked Pilate, Sayest thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell it thee of me? You can't get to heaven, friend, on a hand-me-down religion.
Today's 60-second sermon has been presented by Christian Foundations of Faith in cooperation with the Baptist churches in your area.
If
It's a fact that your credit lasts longer when using Smart. During these times, we're all trying to find ways to cut costs and save the little resources we have. With Smart, it's easy to do that. It's a fact that with Smart, your credit lasts longer. You can call Smart to Smart and Smart to Digi using your promo credit, while with the other guy, you can only call on-net, Digi, or BTL numbers. What does this mean? You get to call any national number using your promo credit. Your promo credit is free, so that call is also free. Know your facts. Don't be tricked by the other guy. Be smart and save your dollars.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun. With eCash, we can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
reduce your risk of viral illness like the flu or the coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water or with an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing or sneezing with a tissue. Throw away, then wash hands immediately. Avoid close contact with anyone who has the cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or nearest health center and share your travel history. A health and wellness message from your Ministry of Health.
Kadile sa Albert Interlube.
Ingita nomada na basanti golida ligabri asa talida l'escuela abro hatia afia na lo ni la mege do.
Time out. Weri hali anigi beli habusa rogrigi ya wena mohaya hagamro duniwa irahia. Baro bada ayano haba hama bisanigu. Demele badugunile bide haba lida leredoroniwa hagamro duniwa irahia.
We're back.
We're back.
Okay, go for it. Do you want me to do your background here?
And so we have in studios with us to teach us all about Creole drumming, Musa Shahid. Good morning, Musa. Welcome to the show. We're excited to see what it is that you have to teach us today.
Yeah. Of course, Musa, you said that you were out of the country. You came back to be a part of Miss Myrna's funeral.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about how that hit you. I know it's been tough.
Well, when I heard the news, I was working, and I just I just completely broke down and booked the ticket the same moment.
Yeah.
And I flew out the same night. And then I got a layover that was like a few hours, and then I was here the following day, and everything just went so fast. And like the day of the funeral, I felt bad because a lot of prestigious people wanted to come in and they couldn't come in because of the COVID. I was like, this was such a wrong time.
Yeah.
To me, that's just my opinion, but I mean, who are we to question these inevitable things?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Now it's, we've had you here talking about cultural promotion and preservation so many times. And I think one of the things that people have acknowledged in the loss with Miss Myrna is just how much she dedicated her life towards that. We're here with Creole drums in honor, and of course in keeping up with what you normally do outside of COVID times, which is teach drumming.
Right.
Yeah.
So just a quick review of the drums that we have here.
Yes.
So I'll start off with my one. So mine is a djembe. So this is not a traditional Creole drum.
Okay.
This is a traditional drum for all African descent people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So this is a drum that is known globally, and it's called a djembe. Those three are the mother instruments of these drums. So basically you have we already touched base with the djembe. This is the lead. This is a lead drum and a call drum, right?
Okay.
And these three are like the father and the mother at once of all the drums, along with a what we would call a balafon. The Mayan people in Belize, they call it a marimba. They use it as a marimba.
Right.
Right?
So who's in the center, mom or dad?
Mom.
Okay, good. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Right? So you have the mother drum, who is called like, it's also referred to as the father drum, but it's the mother drum.
Okay.
So they call it ba because it's big, and in almost all ancient languages, ba means like king or father or you know, mother, depending on how you put the beginning.
Yeah.
So this is a dudun ba.
Dudun ba.
So it's like the big drum.
Is it because it go dudun?
Well, it kind of literally, to that certain degree, a lot of time the children ask the same question.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sir, is it that because of where you go dudun? And I was like, not really, but it's because of where it's the big drum.
Okay.
Dudun ba. But this is the whole family. So this alone is called junjun.
Junjun.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is called a king kitty.
King kitty.
Junjun. And this one is called, this is a sangba. So together, all three together is called the Dudunba family.
Dudunba.
Right? So basically what we do with these is, Emmett Young is the first person to introduce these drums to Belize.
Okay.
And he learned it from a woman in Guatemala. And when he learned these drums, he taught it to his villagers first in Gales Point, Malante. And then my family was a family that he always been around when he comes to Belize because of our shop, and he knew my parents from a long time.
Yeah.
So I was privileged enough to learn all of this from Emmett growing up.
Yeah.
So one of my first drums was a djembe. That's why I really love the djembe. But these two is basically for traditional Creole drum from Gales Point.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're called the Sambai drum.
These are the Sambai drums.
Yes, because of the Sambai culture from Gales Point with the full moon ritual or fertility ritual, the song, the dance. So this drum is a representation of all of that. So it's called the Sambai drum with the barrel shape, both of them. They weren't ever tuned with this style that you see the djembe has also. They have.
The string.
Yeah, it's called the Mali weave. It's a style from Africa, right? We never did that before.
What do we
do? Yeah, Emmett introduced that to the culture and enhanced the culture. Okay. It's just like how the Garfana put the strip of sometimes fishing wire or a guitar string over their primero, upgraded the sound of their music. It's the same Emmett did with the Creole drum, the Sambai cutter. So traditionally, we have two types of drums, a cutter and a bass that is called a gombe. And that's why basically all Emmett encourages us is to continuously pay homage to our African ancestry by using these drums and combining it with the Sambai drums.
Yeah.
So we use the Dudunba as a representation of the gombe, and also just to give it that extra flair and that extra spice in the music. So we get all the pitches that we want to hear. And it's the same we do with the Sambai drum. That's why we use the Mali weave to give it that extra crank so that it has a higher pitch. But it won't ever have a pitch like a djembe because of the design of the djembe.
Indeed.
The way how the djembe is built. So if you touch your drums, You lean it forward like this, and you put it in between your legs.
Do you have to lift it up?
No, yours is tall enough.
Mine is tall enough.
Yeah.
You can lift up in one.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Because that's how we usually do it. We never really build properly tall.
Yeah.
You know?
I got it. I got it.
So,
all right. So what are we learning?
Yeah, learn the basic sounds what this drum produce. So you have like 3 basic sounds. I will give you the first one this. So we have bass in the middle, and then
I told you.
we have a bag of jewels.
Oh, so you could get bass in this too.
Yeah, get bass in everything. You know, a song as deep as mine, like I told you, because of what this is a djembe is designed to lead, so it's supposed to do everything.
Stronger.
And it gives you all the sounds like this and more.
Okay.
Right? But the sambai kota is just a traditional drums are never like original.
Yeah.
It's a remake of what our ancestors had access to in order to fashion or culture and preserve it to the best of their ability.
All right, so we have the bass.
So you have the bass in the middle. Then you have a sound that we call tone.
Tone.
It's one of the hardest sound to produce on a djembe. Or a sambai kota. You have to close your fingers, like close all the gaps so don't make no air come out. And you get a sound that is called tone. Right?
You got it.
Okay.
And then you got the slap. That when you open the finger, that way you get a high pitched sound. Right?
Okay.
Open finger.
You got it.
There you go. So basically, all the traditional rhythms for the Creole people, and the Maroon people of Gills Point, is comprised of bass, tone, and slap. Right?
Yeah, I recognize this sound.
Yeah, because that's what they used to solo on a lot of.
Yes.
So you always hear it. Right?
Yeah. We got this one.
Be
kind. We are amateurs.
I tell it how I laugh. Right? So, teach you one of the easiest rhythm.
Yeah, let's go.
You see how you shift the easiest one now?
Yeah, because the hardest one to me for teach are the sambai, because that's really vigorous.
Yeah.
So you have like the brought down and a sister rhythm that we share with the Garifuna people, but they play it a little bit different.
Okay.
But it's the same rhythm. It's called kunjai.
Okay, kunjai, yeah.
I think you guys gonna get the bass a lot more easier because I stick.
Okay.
Before I get to that real hurry. So we got. Let's try kunjai.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Kunjai was slap.
I just want everybody to notice how he's like hesitating if we can even do this.
No, it's just fun.
Yeah, let's go.
I think so too.
It's been a minute.
So we're doing,
They're doing the open fingers.
Yeah, they do open fingers and
So you
bass.
teach children. Treat us like children today.
All right.
Please.
Yeah.
So you guys,
harder than I thought
the
it
right
would be.
hand?
Yeah.
Right hand. So yeah, use the bass with your right hand. And your left hand.
Do you hit with here?
No, you
or
use
here?
the whole hand.
The whole hand.
Right. And you try to make this. Now look,
Like-
my hand's ugly.
Yeah.
Real crusty. No worry about my hand. But
You
basically,
got drummer hands.
you're trying to make the nail, the inside, your hands, be the primary hit. Your YB, your fingers. So the sound come out more smooth.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Does that sound right?
Yeah? Yeah? You got it?
Yeah, we got it.
So
We got
yeah,
it.
use it inside, but mostly your fingers. So this hit after, so you come out more smooth, and then you slap that just these.
Okay.
Just this.
Yeah, just the fingers.
Ah.
Bam. There you go.
That's a better technique.
So try it to the left. Can you hear the slap it to the
Lord.
left?
I can't do anything with my left hand.
Alright, so the rhythm we are playing a kunjai, right?
Yeah.
Hear the rhythm. Make it embed in your brain for a minute. That's how you a song, right? Hey. Wait, stop, hold up. He got it, he done got it, but wait.
Okay.
Okay, I done got it.
So basically the rhythm that when you sing it, the bass, bass, pa.
Bass,
Like,
bass, pa.
because of the slap, pa, bass, bass, pa. If you want me to do a tone, it may be go. Like bass, bass, go, bass, bass, go, bass, bass, go. But with a slap, I say pa, right?
Pa.
You dig? So bass, bass, pa, bass, bass, pa, bass, bass, pa. That one over there.
Yeah, all
Okay.
Right?
Bass, bass,
If
pa.
you can't get it, you just do the bass, bass first, right? Right?
I'm waiting for like kind of, yeah, we get it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
You just mess up everybody.
I just come off the whole rhythm.
So basically, you just sing it in your head over,
yeah. Boom, boom, boom,
and yeah, come out more easier. You just go bass, bass, pa, bass, bass, pa, bass, bass, pa.
There you go.
Okay, come dance now. Come, Babu. He did not, you know, I feel like a musician because he did not the head. Yeah.
I think it might be more Moose's
That's
drum
what
than
it feels like.
Enough. Who will be the first contender over here?
All right, let's do this.
Maybe I should do it first because it could only get better after me, right?
Go right ahead.
Let's go. You go in the front.
Oh, to the front. But we're going to face the cameras.
So you're probably gonna
So,
All right, so
you first, then me second.
yeah, you just stay right there. Hold on.
Yeah.
So basically, I have the kinky day,
Let me
the duns.
transition.
I call this the duns. I know you usually call it the duns. Duns, and then I got the song bar, right? So what we made to play now? Bass, bass, pa.
Yeah.
So the pa, pay attention. So you, you double
definitely
land. You are double land right
Okay.
now. Usually the first one get it hard, and then the second one get it easy. Cause you the land with the first one the land.
I take it for the team, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
take it
go
for the
ahead.
team, Curry. So the high will be the slap, so with the play, and the low will be tone. But we only add it in there for the purpose of the flair where I say we want to give the Creole culture.
Okay.
So basically the rhythm at the top, broad Creole right now. So
Okay.
basically
That's
the rhythm
alright.
is bass, bass, pa.
Why you
It's the
use
same.
the thicker ends?
So I tell you song
Oh.
more
Okay.
rich,
Good.
powerful. We usually use like carved sticks, but more thicker and powerful.
Right.
That way they bring out the rich sound of the drum.
Right.
Cause this would be more, it would give a higher pitch if the sticks was bigger, right? Afraid? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, play, but with two hands. So yeah, be bass, bass, pa, bass, bass, pa. Or you
Okay.
can switch it. How I usually do it, one in, one out.
Come on now. You got that, Martin. You
Right?
got
You just have
that.
to over here first. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Hey.
You join in, buddy.
There you go. Oh, you come over.
We're
Oh,
playing a
okay.
song.
Oh, we're
One.
making, yeah. So presenting Channel 5's Open Your Eyes standby drummers led by
Oh,
the
good.
one and only Musa Shahid. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Come on now.
All right, we need the Channel 5 dancers. Alvin, Abu.
When we got time in, man.
All right, switch it up over
Okay,
there.
okay.
All right. There you go. All right.
You did good for
Your
your
turn.
first time, though. That was nice.
You know, I kind of like that feeling, yeah.
I tell it a lot of people usually get there, but I like their one there for some reason. I don't know why.
Maybe because we want to hit things sometimes.
I need a fleet of these. I need a fleet of these, then. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
So same thing.
So same thing.
1, 2, 3. Come on.
All right. Oh,
Either side you want. Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You see, he got the more.
I know,
You
right?
be the baseman
You want it
now.
to be extra.
Okay, Mr. Baseman. Come, no? Baseman.
Stay there.
All right.
You the baseman.
All right. So wait, you want to step on the rhythm? Same rhythm.
Yeah. I got the rhythm.
All right, singer. Let's go.
Hold the rhythm good now. No? Just not switch for me.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
No, me hear it where we hear it. Oh no, John, no, me hear it where we hear it. Oh no, John, we hear it all and that steam a boil a back and bust kill over 90 man. When they come last, can't find the sugar plum last, can't find. No, me hear it where we hear it. Oh no, John, no, me hear it where we hear it. Oh no, John, me hear it all and that steam a boil a back and bust kill over 90. When they come last, can't find the sugar plum last, can't find. This whisper. Yes. Come on, man.
I know, right? Wait, hold on. I never knew how hard it would be to try to catch back the beat.
Right. All right, later.
That was a whole new experience.
Yeah, because
That was awesome.
a lot of times you want to do more.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there is a pocket for that within a 4 count.
Yeah.
But if you know that on it, if you know the count that,
Yeah.
you can't really get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
while you did it, while you did it, laugh at
I
his
tried to figure out
dancing,
myself.
because he enjoy
No,
himself.
I was enjoying that he was enjoying
Oh yeah.
himself.
Yeah. If you put it like that.
Yes.
Catchy.
It is.
I
That
had
was
to
awesome.
laugh too, but I just skipped for the beat. You know?
All right, so we're going to do an impromptu, right? We got to go to break because we're so out of time. It's very
Yeah.
late. All right, so who's going to come up with the lyrics? You? You? Creative.
Yeah.
You did the poetry, right? For Give Me 5.
Okay.
I'll give you the
do
beat.
something. Let's do something.
All right, let's go.
Go
So you're
on,
going to
rhythm.
sing us out to break.
You got your rhythm.
Musa, thank you. This is the most fun we've had for the start of the year. And we made you laugh quite a bit too, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
This is fun.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, open your eyes with Musa Shahid, Marlene Cuellar and Paul Lopez. Send you out, coming back to wrap up the show. Hey, this a Creole culture, this a Fiwi culture, me and your culture. Send me off, master. So funny.
It's almost lunchtime and Alice is getting hungry and forgot to bring cash. She remembers that eCash now has a geolocation feature in which she can easily view the eCash merchants near her, especially restaurants. Her co-workers also ask her to order food for them.
Chicken chow mein, please, and a Coke.
The merchant sends her the payment link, she taps confirm, and within a few minutes, her food is delivered. Alice then views her transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the split the bill button where she selects the unevenly option and moves the bar to the desired amount per person. The request is then sent to her friends. Her colleagues accept the request and are ready to enjoy their meals. geolocation, and splitting the bill via eCash make Alice's life a whole lot easier.
When something is good and you can save, that makes it even better. Like this guy, he buys Flex bundles using his promo credit. No worries when his primary credit is finished. He gets talk, text, and data for free. Or her, she calls her family internationally with her promo credit. And with data packages so affordable, she even does video calls. Smart continues to offer great deals and affordable promotions. As a small business owner, she saves when she uses her promo credit to call the other guys. All Smart customers enjoy more triple days and knowing they can use their promo credit, which just lasts longer. Smart, bringing people together.
And we're back, and we can't let go of these drums quite yet. We want to say thank you for tuning in. Clearly, we've been having a lot of fun to close off.
Indeed. It was a great show this morning, Marlene. Yeah. We started, of course, on a very serious note, just having a discussion about Omicron, getting updates from the health experts in terms of what we know and the measures we can take personally to protect ourselves. And then right after that, we went into some financial conversation with a Professor Dr. Albert Williams, Belizean in the U.S., of course, professor at a university. And that was an awesome conversation as well. And of course, this morning we're wrapping things off with some drumming.
With Musa Shahid coming in to teach us one thing. Trying new things can be fun.
Can be very fun.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to at least even get one part of this down, but you showed me otherwise. So thank you so much. We have to wrap up. We're completely out of time. If you'd like to contact us, send us an email, oie@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook and on Instagram. And tune in again tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
And start your morning right.
Until then,
keep your mind, your eyes,
and your heart open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Let me get something to go with,
right?
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.